Well, hello and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn, and the wonderful Radio Laureate himself, Mike Read. How are you doing, Mike?
Very good. I see they come to take back the suit that you hired.
Hey, hire purchase. That's what you have to do, to rent it by the hour. And actually you can go, because now you can't change in these different places. You can take it home to try it on. And if it doesn't fit, you take it back. So it's a very good way of doing things.
Do you have a little closet off to the side somewhere there, or or do you have a man that comes in, Lord Eborn, allow me, and just takes it off you and puts the new stuff on?
I just sort of sit here and people change me. I think it's rather good. The change will do me good. It's always a thrill. What I tell you what I'm talking about.
Do you actually hang stuff up when you do? Are those, or do you go in the bedroom and go woof, and that pinstripe's thrown on the bed and on the floor for now?
I think if you look around, the great thing is you just watch this camera here. That's all you see. Around me everywhere, there are stacks and piles of stuff. And you've got clothes and everything. So a whole mountain of clothes would be a thrill.
The Eborn Clothes Bank.
It's good, isn't it? You see, the clothes mountain, the CM. That's what we want. It's always a thrill. And talking about mountains, news and the mounting news this week has been extraordinary, hasn't it?
Yeah, Piers Morgan walking off the show. I always think that's one of those things, you're going to get publicity. I remember the dreadful Owen Jones did that on one. He just sort of walked off and you think, oh, please, I mean, if you're going to go on to a show, you've got to be able to handle it. I mean, walking off isn't really an option if you're in that field and you're in that game. If you are, mentally threatened, or you're not used to being on TV or nervous, I can get someone doing that. But when that's your game and you've got, hubris aplenty, I don't quite get the walking off for it. That means I can't answer, which is quite an extraordinary thing, really. So, you always wonder whether there's a bit of a game plan, don't you?
Oh, of course there is. I mean, it's P.T. Barnum who used to say, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. And I think, talking of crowds, it was the first time I understand that the morning program, GMB, I don't think it's now called, the first time they beat the BBC in the ratings for the morning show.
Absolutely. Yeah, people love something like that. And now, of course, there's this, 250,000 people signing a petition to bring him back. Another 250,000 signing, don't bring him back. It's the old ploy. And Colonel Tom Parker was very good at that with Elvis Presley. And Elvis one day saw a badge. He said, Colonel Tom, I've just seen a badge that said, I hate Elvis Presley. Can we get rid of those? And Colonel Tom said, no, Elvis, we sell those. He said, what? And he sold as many I hate Elvis badges as I love Elvis badges. He said, but don't worry, we all make money from it.
That's absolutely glorious. I love it. Have you ever been tempted to walk off a live program apart from this one?
No, I don't think so. Only if I want to go to the loo or something like that. But no, I haven't. No, I mean, I think if you're going to do that, if you're going to throw your toys out of the pram in that way, you're going to have a good response to it. And it's difficult to regain your composure after you've done that. You could say, if you sat and said, look, I really don't like where this is going and I'm not comfortable with it. Would you mind if I left? It's a polite way of doing it. But just to get up, take your thing off and storm off. You then, having thrown your toys out of the pram, you sometimes have to go and rather sheepishly collect them again and put them back in the pram, which is always a problem. But who knows whether it was organized or not. And I mean, this is the thing of, free speech, and people can say what they like, and, but then people don't like people responding to that. All in all, I think the whole saga there really was, it's better for any family to deal with anything in private. It's much better to deal with it in private. Whatever issues you have, whatever problems you have, whatever perceived problems you have, to deal with them amongst yourselves and talk about it. I mean, it's always strange to go on to TV and air all your problems, because not many people have the chance of doing that. 99.999% of people don't have the opportunity to air their grievances or their problems, whatever, on a massive TV platform. I think it's always better not to, wash your dirty linen in public, to try and sort it out. Yeah, maybe it's a last gasp if you can't sort it out, whatever, I don't know. I mean, it's like two cowboys fighting it out at high noon.
And that's the problem, isn't it? What did you make of the interview?
I didn't really watch all of it, to be honest with you. I think it's always very difficult when you have one side of anything, when you have somebody talking about whatever subject it is, whoever it is, that if you have both sides, then okay. I mean, when I listen to party political broadcasts, you think, oh, that makes sense. Then you listen to another party, you think, well, yeah, that makes sense. Then just do a third party, yeah, that makes sense. But you've got to get them all together and have a reasonable discussion. I mean, the problem with all these things now, with all interviews and everything, and I find political interviewers, they go with a couple of bombs in their pocket and they're going to try and trip up the interviewee. It's not to try and find out what the interviewee thinks, whether it's political, whether it's whatever it is. But they go with a couple of things in their pocket, and at some point, I'm going to pull this out and throw it at you, catch this bomb. And that's what they do. They go and have a few things that they think are going to really, enable them to get one over on the interviewee rather than actually just interviewing them.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, a lot of it, as you rightly say, it's one person's opinion of one thing. And the trouble is you're damned by generalization. And I think if you make an accusation and you don't say when, and you don't provide the context, and you don't provide where, it leaves people to speculate, doesn't it? Which is unfair, really.
It does, but I mean, that's the job of an interviewer in any situation. The job of an interviewer is to get the facts and say, are you going to talk about this? Is there anything you're not going to talk about? Because if there is, maybe we won't go into that field, because it just leads totally to speculation. And I think and sometimes interviewer, really, you can be famous, you can be well known, but you have to know your onions. And there are certain things in any interview, in that one and others, where you think, no, actually, didn't you know that as the interviewer? You should probably have known that. That's the thing. You have to be very well versed if you're going into that. You can't just go into it as a celebrity interviewer. You have to be pretty well versed on it. It's like the BBC. They put you through the mill now. You have a day doing legal stuff, and so you basically know what you can say, what you can't say, and how to get the best out of people. Really, make them feel comfortable. And it's a difficult one. I mean, it's a difficult one because you're interviewing people who are basically putting one side of a story, and the other team, because of the nature of the royal family, find it very difficult to respond in public, because it's not their nature, never been their way to respond in public. So it does create a problem. It does create speculation and questions. And what do you say? Do you just rise above it and keep quiet? If you look at social media, everyone's got an opinion, and everyone's opinion varies according to somebody else's opinion, and they're all arguing with each other about something that they're probably not actually party to be honest. So it's we all have our grievances, but often you can hopefully talk about them with the people concerned and say, look, this is
right. And it always used to be the policy of the royal family, that Benjamin Disraeli quote about never complain, never explain, and you work on that sort of thing. But obviously, when the big issues, the hottest topics in the world at the moment about mental health and race, if you start putting those incendiary things in there, there's got to be a comment somewhere, hasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you talk about things that you're right are incendiary with the public at the moment, and if somebody has a problem and everyone rushes to their side and said, "Oh, be kind," as we do when anyone has a serious problem. Oh, be kind, and then then you get people actually that said be kind last month suddenly not being kind this month. You think, well, make up your mind. One banner or the other. Either be kind or don't be kind. Don't keep switching it. But yeah, it's a problem. And then, of course, the media lap it up and feed it all, don't they? They absolutely love it. It's a God-given for them. I always felt that Rupert Murdoch, sorry.
Richard was his unknown brother. He didn't get the publicity. He did all the work.
Rupert, sure, I've forgotten who he is already. Rupert Murdoch, I always felt, was not a fan of the royal family, but embraced them because it sold papers.
And that's the thing. I mean, Meghan mentioned it in the interview, is obviously the royal family throw parties to invite the big editors and journalists and so on and so forth. And it's that relationship where you agree certain things and there are certain rules about what stories you can shine the light on and which stories you sort of park for a little bit. And the reality is we are all the same. There's lots of things. Families have issues. That's what happens. As you rightly pointed out, it's good to try and sort those out privately. When it's put onto the public stage, the public's hunger for scandal is quite damaging, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think within any family, whatever the family is, there are maybe people you warm to more than others, people you feel you can talk to more than others. You know, kids will often go and talk to their grandparents because their parents are always shouting at them. So, oh, my grandparents never shouted. You can go and talk about things that maybe you can't talk about to your parents, you know, first girlfriends, first boyfriends, and grandparents understand. So yeah, I think, but I think you have to have that and build that respect within the family, whichever family it is, not just a royal family, any family. Whereas you can sense from the public display that the Queen has various people in the family that she enjoys being with and enjoys talking to. But I think sometimes in any family you have to earn that. And where somebody warms to you and goes, yeah, okay, come and talk to me about that. You can't, I think, just come in straight from the outside and expect that. You know, I think you have to earn it in a way, and part of it comes with, you know, do two characters get on or do they not get on? And again, in any family, in any workplace, as we know, there are people you get on naturally with and gravitate to, and others that you think you don't quite take to for some reason, whatever, whereas somebody else does take to them. You know, that's how, you know, tribes existed for centuries. I mean, it's who you get on with and who, that's why, you know, in cities around the world, and they always talk about integration, which is great. I mean, I love it. I love going around the world. I love going to other countries. And, you know, I love seeing their culture and being part of it, eating their food. But when you go to someone like New York or San Francisco, they have the Italian quarter, the Chinese quarter, the Jewish quarter, simply because they probably worshipped at the same altar. They have the same culinary tastes and things like that. And part of their culture, they talk in the same culture. It's not that you don't like other cultures, it's just that you tend to gravitate towards your own group, like football fans. If somebody says, you know, I'm a United fan, I go, oh, hello, mate, how are you? Go on, let's have a drink. We say, I'm a City fan. Oh, are you? You know, so there's always been that tribal thing. You know, we can't ignore it, but it doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't mean you have to be xenophobic because you're not part of that tribe. You can still embrace someone else's tribe. But then it goes back to the dawn of time, doesn't it, really, of tribes attacking the next tribe and attacking the next tribe. I guess there's some primal instinct in man, which has a very nice and loving side and sometimes a bit of an evil side as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think it's nowadays we should be celebrating and embracing the diversity. And I think encouraging debate, and this is the point, is that there seems to be a tradition now that everybody has to be shocking in interviews. I mean, and certainly that seems to be the attacking things. If you look at the difference, the way that Piers, for example, was interviewing a lot of the politicians, it was always attack, attack, attack. Now, certainly from a journalistic point of view, you want to get to the truth of the matter, but not so much that they give up and don't say anything.
No, you've got to get people's trust if you're talking to them, and they've got to believe you and not think you're a charlatan and try to get under their skin for reasons of your own. Yeah, I think you do. I mean, in doing TV programs, you're there to try and bring out the best in your interviewees, not, you know, talk all over them. And I mean, someone like Michael Parkinson, you know, someone could give an answer and he'd just go, oh, so what happened then? You just touch the tiller. You just move them along and bring them out. That's what you do. That's what I always try to do. You don't talk too much. You can be too clever and say, oh, of course, Fred, you had 3 number ones and you did so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. And you talk about them for a minute to show off how clever you are. And they sit there and go, yeah, that's right. You know, you've got to bring the people out of themselves and make them feel comfortable. You know, the number of times on Saturday morning TV where people are clearly being a bit nervous. And I said, look, don't worry. If you stop talking, I'll carry on. It's what I do. Don't worry. And they go, oh, okay. I said, you'll be fine. I said, if you dry up, I'll just carry on. Oh, So then they feel a bit more comfortable after that. And I think that's the main thing, is making people feel comfortable. Why would you try and constantly trip people up or be edgy or be unpleasant to them? What is it, to make yourself look better? I don't think you do. To make them look better? No, you don't. So who wins? I don't think anybody wins, really.
Well, it's right to question it, because that's what you have to do in the news cycle at the moment. You have to balance it, and there's that balance. But what it is, it needs to be in that sort of way, that in the way that Robin Day would do it, or whatever, is you turn around, you can challenge a statement in order to get to the truth. But if, as you rightly say, you just want to make them look rubbish, it's not really helping advance the discussion, is it?
It isn't, but I think politically, where people do not answer the question and deliberately go around the houses, we've come to this pass now where they will hammer that question 7 times. You're still not answering the question, the Paxman thing. Yeah. You're still not answering the question. You're still not answering the question. Answer my question. And then you've got an impasse. It's not going anywhere then, because they've got so rattled they're not going to answer the question, and you're not going anywhere but down this tunnel that you're going down. And it ends, in a quagmire, really. So that's I think the problem there. Get used to the fact that sometimes people don't or can't or aren't going to answer a question.
Yeah, you mentioned that there's the BBC would send you on a day's training. What do they teach you?
It's common sense, really. I think if you have a modicum of common sense to start with, they just sort of get a bit of a hammer and knock that into your head. It's just to make you think, and sometimes you take that outside of the BBC as well. And I know I do sometimes now. I used to just say something, and now I think, just stop. Before you say it, stop and think. And then maybe don't say it at all.
Yes, interesting stuff. And you're right about people doing the preparation. It's good to know, as my background as a lawyer, you very rarely ask a question you don't know the answer to. But you're right, you're helping people to go on that journey and to try to examine, question everything, but at the same time, give a platform for people to respond.
Yeah, and I think, if I do so, I try and, you hope that people are inspired. If you're singing or playing or recording or talking, people go away and go, oh, yeah. And they go away inspired, not down. I mean, you don't, I've never operated in trying to put someone else down, because if I thought I'd even done it inadvertently, I'd go away, I feel terrible. I feel really, really awful if I'd done it, by mistake. But then again, I think, in any interview, you can only be honest about what you think. It might not align with what other people think, but often people will say, oh, we should have freedom of speech. And you go, well, okay, so says freedom of speech didn't agree with what you think, so you don't agree with their freedom of speech. So, and now it gets utterly complex with the technical Tower of Babel, which you've got in the background there, which is, which is Twitter, really, and Facebook, not so much maybe Facebook and Instagram, but Twitter certainly, where people take on there and just try, it's almost a lynch mob. And you think, and it becomes inflamed. I saw something the other day and they were talking about Wat Tyler, right? And I thought, before that, everyone's copying each other, because I could see hundreds and hundreds of people saying Wat Tyler was killed by the state. Now, that's a very strange thing to say, because we didn't think in Richard II's time of the state. It was a country, and I thought, I wonder how many of those know the story, what kicked it off, about, John Ball, that Wat Tyler lived in Maidstone, that the pollsters that came around because the poll first time around, thinking, hang on, where's everybody gone? The 100 Years' War haven't taken that many people, the plague hasn't taken that many people, because people cheated, put their names down, so they didn't pay poll tax. And so they went back, they sent the heavies round, and they tried to prove that Wat Tyler's daughter was, over age. Let's say, so he went ballistic, and that sort of kicked it off, really. And they came to London on a peaceful mission. It ended up not being peaceful. Clerkenwell Fields, Richard II, confrontation. Nobody said that. But Wat Tyler, hundreds of people saying the same thing. Did you know Wat Tyler was killed by the state? Did you know what? I thought it's just copying each other. And that's what happens on Twitter. People copy people without actually thinking for themselves sometimes.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Obviously.
And it gets very, very tricky. And the trouble is, everybody becomes an expert. The more means of communication that we have, the less we're able to communicate. So we just regurgitate. Tell a lie often enough, and it becomes the truth.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely right, as you as a lawyer would know.
Hey, always a joy. Anyway, all of this was wonderfully inspiring for today's poet radio laureate, Piers.
I've forgotten there was a poem at the end of the rainbow. Right. I thought about Piers and the people they were suggesting, again, going back to Twitter. You're saying, oh, so-and-so should be on. Richard Bailey's yours. So-and-so should be on. Don't have so-and-so, have so-and-so. So the jury and the hanging judge were out. I saw Piers Morgan walking off Good Morning and reckon social media will be searching Wikipedia to feed your rumours and make gaffes and bloomers by suggesting a raft of baby boomers. Some think it would be Gradely to have Richard Madeley. But look, the bookies have him at evens. And this was the man who was attacked by Shaking Stevens and pretended to be Ali G and went on TV to say his daughter was an accident. But he's big on activity. He once head-butted a kid on a TV nativity. And Clarkson's 2-1 in the stakes. But who could forget his big mistakes, like punching his producer in the face for not providing medium rare steaks? Instead, he got a cold collation and incurred the wrath of the entire nation. So Jezza is a loser and a schmoozer. You're more likely to find him down the boozer than user-friendly on GMB. So who's it to be? Scope's no oath, but he'll use his loafer and stay on the sofa. Ben Shepherd, now that lad's worth a mensch, and the gaffer might bring him off the bench. I see the odds of Shorten on Graham Norton, but he oughtn't to move on again so soon. Jeremy Vine is 100-9. Jeremy Kyle, not his style. Then there's Bradley from The Chase. He's quite ace and he's got the face, but he's got a place already. Kay Burley, much too surly, and much too early, and much too girly. She's quoted at 100-30. Lorraine Kelly off the telly. She's in with a shout, no doubt. Chris Evans, evens. Good Evans, even he's in with a shout. Susanna Reid, there's no doubt who should sit beside her. He may be one of the 100-1 outsiders, but he's got the Midas touch, and as such, they should get him in their clutches. I can have a word if you like. He's called Mike. His phone's on silent at the Mo, but give it a go after 10. You'll catch him then.
Hey, I love it. There you go. Would you be tempted?
They wouldn't even ask me. I'm probably everything that's wrong. A bloke from the home counties. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry.
It is extraordinary. And Piers will, of course, re-emerge in a glorious incarnation. I'm sure the offers are flooding in for him. Where do you think we're going to see him next?
No idea. No idea. I didn't write the script. Somebody else has written the script. I'm not party to it.
Well, it's always a joy. Mike, always a pleasure catching up, putting the world to rights. For now, Radio Laureate, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. So thank you again to the Radio Laureate, Mike Read. If you would like to be a guest or have comments on the show, you can write to me at guests@octopustv.com. That's guests@octopustv.com. Don't forget, you can follow me at Andrew Eborn @octopustv, and you can subscribe. Do it now. It's free. But for me, for now, thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.